What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. So today I'm going to be doing a video that I've done before and you guys absolutely loved it, and that is a full fish catch breakdown. So what that is where I take one piece of footage, one fish catch from the day, and I break down every aspect, right? Rod, reel, line, bait, water conditions, weather conditions, everything. I break it all down, tell you guys all the little nitty-gritty details so that you guys can put those tools in your toolbox and hopefully go out and put some more fish in the boat, bank, kayak, wherever you guys happen to be fishing. So let's get into this thing. It's a really good fish catch. This is a really unique piece of footage in the fact that there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of things that I did instinctually, and what I mean by that is I just knew to do them. Like, just from years and years of fishing, instinctually I knew what I needed to go do to catch the fish that I caught. And a lot of the times, you know, with new anglers especially, and even some seasoned anglers, that's the biggest thing that they miss, is being an instinctual fisherman. Just, you know, using everything around you to kind of help make decisions. And then when you actually hook the fish, just knowing what to do from putting a lot of fish in the boat, so that you don't lose that fish and that fish does come in the boat. So we'll talk about all those details here in just a second, but let me kind of lay out the scene for you guys for this fish catch. What this is I was up in a river. And this river is fed by a dam, and so the water in this river is going to be cooler pretty much all year round. The water that I was fishing was 75 to 76 degrees, whereas like Main Lake, if I'd have gone 10 miles down Main Lake, put in a different boat ramp, it'd have probably been anywhere from 80 to 85 degrees. So almost a 10-degree water difference up in this river. And I like fishing those rivers for that exact reason. They've got cooler water temperatures all year long, so it helps these fish to just stay shallow so I can go catch them how I like to catch them. Flip them, frogging, throwing a big worm, fishing in the grass, chatterbait, that kind of stuff. So that's why I was fishing in this river. Another big thing about that river, like I said, it's fed by a dam, so that dam creates current. And in this particular fish catch, the first part of the day there was no current. The second part of the day they started to generate current, generate power. And what they do is actually push water through this dam. It hits a turbine, that turbine spins and it creates electricity, and that's really how a lot of East Tennessee is powered, by these big TVA dams. When they push water through them, it creates power. And so they started to generate some current, and when they did that, obviously the water started moving, because that is what current is. And so when that happens, it creates eddy points. And so what an eddy point is, you got to imagine if you're in a river, there's a rock in that river. When the water goes around that rock, there's going to be a space of dead water in behind that rock. And that is what is called the eddy point. Well, docks, laydowns, rocks, brush piles, all do the same thing within a river that is artificial current. So this dock that I'm actually fishing on, which I'm fishing on a dock because you guys have not seen it yet, those dock posts, the ladders, the sea-doo ramps, the boat lifts, everything, if it's in the water, it can create an eddy point. And so what will happen is they'll start to pull that current through that river, and those fish go from kind of just hanging out on whatever to they got to suck up right behind something so that they can just sit there and wait for something to pass by their face, and they'll rush out and grab it, and then they'll come sit in that eddy point, just chill out and sit there and be chill and do bass things like swim around and breathe and eat and crap and do all that kind of stuff. And so that was really the two big factors as to why that fish was where it was at. Number one, he was shallow because there's a lot of cool water, a lot of oxygenated water. He does not have to go deep. It does not have to, move off out into deep water and live. And then there's that current. That current started pushing through, and it made those bass, this bass in particular, suck right up to those dock posts. It also makes the bait fish and the bluegill do that as well, which is a big factor also. So the current's huge. The water temperature is huge. Obviously, we're in this river. The next thing is going to be what that bass is actually eating. This one was one of those like instinctual things. I get to the boat ramp in the morning, I see that there is a ton of bluegill up shallow, and so that's why I picked the bait that I did, which we'll talk about here in just a second. In my mind, I go, okay, a lot of bluegill up shallow, I need to imitate bluegill. Because I tell you, this year's been a really, really weird year in the fact that there's not been a ton of shad up shallow. The shad have kind of balled up offshore, and there's just not a ton of them, period, which is very, very strange. Usually have a really, really good shad spawn this time of year in the river. It's very sporadic and not happening. So I really believe that these bass are keying a lot in on the bluegill this year instead of the shad. That's just one of those observations that I made. So kind of make that observation if you're out there fishing. Go out there and go, okay, I don't think they're eating bluegill as much. I think they're eating shad more, or vice versa, or they may be eating crawdads or whatever it is. So yeah, that's kind of laying out the scene. 73, 75 degree water temperature. You got some current, got some good off-color water too. You'll see that here in just a second. And I'm fishing around a dock. So let's hit play here and we will watch this fish catching footage. So first thing you're going to notice here is I make this pitch into that dock and I start stripping off some line. So the reason that I do that, when I made the pitch and strip off the line, what it actually does is it keeps that bait from pendulum down back towards me. So you got to imagine when you flip into something, if there's tension on the line, that bait is going to just start falling back towards the boat. What you want it to do is you want it to fall straight down. And so by stripping off that line, it gives that bait some slack and it can fall straight down to the bottom. And so that's why I did that. I made the pitch in around that post, and you'll notice the pitch that I made, I pitched it right in next to the left side of the dock. The current was coming from my right. So if you're looking at this video, current's coming in from the right, it's pushing in. So I flip on the left side, just so if there's any bass hanging around those left side dock posts, they'll have a chance to ambush it. And then if I hadn't have got it about there, I'd have done the same thing on the right side. Flip it really close into those dock posts because that's where those fish can ambush from. So I'll be honest, I never felt that fish bite. And the reason for that is that fish was probably suspended under that boat dock. The reason I say that is because the boat dock that I was fishing was in 5 to 6 foot of water. But as soon as I flipped in there, I think that bass grabbed that thing and started cruising back under that boat dock. And the reason for that is because as soon as I pick up on this fish, you'll see my rod tip bends. That's actually that fish pulling back down. And as soon as I set the hook, that bass comes up tail walking, head shaking. So that tells me that bass was not very deep under that dock. So probably what happened was that current started cruising through there and that bass went from being suspended under the middle of that dock to pulling up right behind a boat dock post so they could just sit there and wait for something like that little structure bug to come cruising by its face, have a chance to ambush something, grab it, and then just cruise right back under that boat dock, suspend, and chill out. So yeah, I'm thinking that fish was just chilling really shallow up under that dock, suspended. I never felt him bite. I just pick up, I feel that mushy feeling, and I set the hook on him. So you guys can see I set the hook here and the fish starts coming out. Now, this is really where rod, reel, line, bait, all that kind of stuff comes into play. So the bait that I was throwing is probably the most important, and that is a Strike King structure bug in Moon Juice with just a little bit of chartreuse on the tails. I take a dye pen and I paint up those tails. What that does is it makes it look exactly like a bluegill. It's probably the best bluegill imitator that I have ever seen. And you know, it's one of those deals that I knew the bluegill were up shallow, I knew the shad were up shallow. That little bait does a really good job of mimicking both of those, and so that's what I tied on. I had that paired up with a 1/4 ounce bomb or flipping weight from Beast Coast. Lighter weight, I like to flip with just a little bit lighter weight because it makes me a little bit more accurate. It has the ability to get in and get out of stuff with more accuracy, but two, I like for that bait to fall just a little bit slower. I have found that especially in these situations like this where you've got bass suspended under things, that you've got to let that bait hang in their face just a little bit to get them to actually come out and grab it. Same thing with the Wacky Rig. Wacky Rig is great at this. You guys have seen a bunch of videos where I'm skipping up under boat docks, and that just kind of slow suspended fall on their face gives them a chance to just come out, suck it in, and go back in. It's not intrusive, it's not fast, it's not loud, but it still gets their attention. It still gets a reaction bite. So 1/4 ounce weight, 15-pound fluorocarbon. I'm running 15-pound fluorocarbon around these docks because, I mean, for the most part, 15 will be fine. I'm not flipping anything too heavy. If they do get me around a boat dock post, I've got enough oomph there that I can get them out of there without having to worry about it breaking. But 15-pound is just good general purpose line all across the board. Rod, 7.3 medium heavy Fast Action Lew's TP1 Black. This is literally my favorite rod that Lew's has ever made. If I could only have one, it would be this rod right here because it is good at a little bit of everything. It is just the action, the power, everything about this rod is just right. You can flip, you can pitch, you can throw a spinnerbait, a chatterbait, a frog. I mean, literally, this is a do anything rod. Now, can you go punch mats? No. Can you go frog, thick slop? No. Can you go flip heavy cover? No. Can you fish chatterbaits in super heavy grass? No. But any situation where it's just normal fishing for the most part, because let's all be honest, for the most part, we're not all punching mats and doing all these really hyper technique specific things 90% of the time, or even 80% of the time. 80% of the time, we're just doing kind of what I'm doing here, flipping docks and doing normal fishing. This rod right here will get it done. Now, I'll have all this linked down below. Go check it out. They're Tackle Warehouse links. It'll take you directly where you need to go so you can check out the rod, reel, line bait, all that. Go use those links. It helps me out on the back end. But then I had that paired up with a Lew's Mock Smash 7.5 gear ratio. Honestly, reel doesn't matter as long as it's at 7.5 gear ratio, because what it did was when I flipped in there, stripped off the line, let that bait fall, and I realized that that fish has got it, I was able to pick up that line really, really quick, set the hook, and get that fish coming out. So rod's awesome because it is a medium heavy. It's got enough backbone, enough power that I can start pulling that fish out of that boat dock. I don't have to really worry about it taking me up under a boat dock. If you're fishing a 7-foot medium, you wouldn't have as much torque on that fish. You wouldn't have as much power to get them out. And then obviously line, reel all plays into that as well. But the rod is really what is your powerhouse. That's what's going to help you to get that fish out of that boat dock. So I start getting them out here. Then I do something here. I stop my boat. As soon as I hook that fish, you guys will see I turn my trolling motor around and I stop my boat. The reason I do that is it's really one of those deals. It's me being preemptive. I don't want to run into anything. I want to take my boat moving, the factor of my boat moving, completely out of the equation. Now, I'm not going to run into anything. You guys can probably obviously see I'm 600 yards from the closest boat dock. But when you take that factor completely out of the equation, you don't have to worry about it anymore. If you're in a situation where you might run into something, you stop your boat, you don't have to worry about running into it. And so I do. That's just something that I do. I get on the trolling motor, I stop my boat, and so that way that factor is completely out of the equation. So I bring this bass around the right side of the boat here, get him up in the boat flip him, and it is done. And you guys can probably see here that bass absolutely had that freaking structure bug choked, which again tells me that bass was probably suspended. I never felt him bite. It really let him get a hold of that bait good, and then I was able to jack his face. But yeah, guys, that's the fish catch. I mean, you know, there's a lot of factors that play into every fish catch that happens, and I think there's a lot more little details that we oftentimes don't take into account that play really, really huge parts into how we catch fish, why we catch fish, where we catch fish, and all that kind of stuff like that. But if you enjoyed this, guys, please let me know down in the comment section. Go hit that like button if you enjoyed this. Hitting that like button and leaving me a comment is what really helps these videos to do well. YouTube's algorithm is a strange beast, but if there's two certainties, the like button and the comment section are the way to help these videos get to the top. And if you dislike this video, you know what? You know, joke's on you, because likes and dislikes, you know, it doesn't matter. Engagement is engagement. YouTube just wants you to be engaged. So you like it, you dislike it, go leave a comment. Tell me you hate me, tell me you love me. I don't care. Just help this video to get up there by doing those two things for me. Also, go down in the description. Like I said, I'll have all this stuff linked to Tackle Warehouse so you guys can go check it out. But as always, you guys are sweet, and thank you for watching.
Narrative whenever people for their circumstances, if their circumstances are grossly out of their control and really severely limit their progress. And that exists also for talk about coal mining populations. It's the same shit. We don't have to start out at the same starting block. So all of you pick yourself up by your own bootstrap, motherfucker.
There we go. There we go.